Hey everybody, I want to give you a brief overview of some of the families that we've created, some of our modeling standards, and some of the general features for building families in the future, and why we have those standards. I'm going to show you this window family that I've created for all of our awning casement and picture windows. And the general idea behind building this family is making it parametric so that the parameters drive the physical geometry, and you can make a lot of different types by changing these parameters rather than having to remodel every window individually. The way that this one's set up is you have a height parameter and a width parameter, and those are driving the distance between reference planes, and then you have secondary reference planes for the rough opening, and those are driven from the initial reference planes by these RO offset parameters. Um, Here are the parameters that live inside of this file. So you have all of the dimensional parameters that I was talking about that drive the geometry of the objects. You also have some Bom parameters and the callout code parameters for using with your annotations. The way that we're naming Bom parameters is that we have a blue underscore at the beginning of any parameter that's being read by the Bom, and these have a specific way that they need to be written so that the Bom can understand what lives inside of the family files. The other parameters that we have, and these are going to be specific to the family categories. For Windows, we have a blue screens parameter, which tells you which type of screen you have with the window. A material, this will be the Anderson materials. Interior material, this is how you finish the inside, whether it's with pine trim or you have a drywall return. Your window hardware, and your window glazing. And then the last parameter, this one's really important, the blue underscore Bom object lookup. This will be a 10-digit code that you use to uniquely identify this family type. And this is a number that you'll get from Laura. Whenever you create a new family type, she'll need to issue this to you. If you do end up making new family types, you'll have to get those numbers from Laura. So all of these Bom parameters, they live inside of the shared parameters file, and the way that you load that into any families or projects that you're working with, you just say add shared parameter. If you hit select and you don't have the shared parameter file loaded, it'll pop up a window saying, find a shared parameter file. You can also do it by going into manage. There's the shared parameters button. And so you can see here, this is where the shared parameters file, which has all of our Bom parameters and a lot of other family parameters. It's here under S Revit library shared parameters, blue parameters.txt. So you just have to load that up and you'll get all of these parameters that you can use inside of your files. So now that we have our family built up, we have all of our reference planes and our physical geometry constrained to them, and those being driven by the parameters. The way that you create all of the types for this family is through a spreadsheet. So we have this Excel spreadsheet which has a bunch of different tabs. Each one of these tabs represents one family file, and then these are all of the type names for the family that are going to be created. So for the awning, casement, and picture family, these are going to be all of the type names, and every column is a different parameter that's getting filled out. The one thing that you have to know about filling out the spreadsheet is that if you have a parameter which is looking for a number, such as right here is looking for square feet, you have to have something in there. You can't just leave it blank. So even if it's a 0, if you don't know what that's supposed to be, you just have to fill it out with something. The other thing is you can't have anything in additional columns or additional rows down below your content, or the file that you export will give errors. So just make sure that you don't have any accidental spaces in the fields that you don't want to fill out. So after you get your spreadsheet set up with all of the parameters and all of the variables, you just go up here, make sure you're on the right tab, and do a save as. And you want to save it here as a CSV file. And you have to name it exactly the same name as the family file. So RFA is your Revit family, so awning casement picture.rfa. So you need to name it awning casement picture.txt. It cares about punctuation, it cares about capitalization. It has to be exactly the same. So save it as a CSV file with the txt extension, and that way Revit can read it. After you export that, here's my txt file, here's my family file. The way the txt file looks is like this. Basically, there are commas between the different columns. And this is the file that Revit reads when you try to load your families. So in order to have these types populate, go into your project file and then go under the Insert tab and use this Load Family button. You can't open the family file and just say Load into Project because it doesn't read the CSV file if you do it that way. You have to use this Load Family button in order for it to automatically load the CSV file and all of your types when you're loading your family. So here we are on encasement picture under my standard windows. As soon as I hit open, it searches the directory to see if there's a text file which has the same name as the family file to create a type catalog from. So here we go. So this looks a lot like the spreadsheet that I just exported. Here's all the type names, and then these are all the variables filled out. So you just select which ones you want. You can use Control Select to select individual ones, or use Shift to select a range, or Control deselects also. So select a handful. If you know which ones you want, you can just load those. Otherwise, you can load more of them. It'll ask you, you have a lot of families. Are you sure you want to load them all? It takes memory. You just say yes, and it'll load them in. You'll get an error if there is a parameter inside of your CSV file, inside of your spreadsheet, that doesn't exist in the family. So it looks like I don't have a screen parameter inside my family, but it's trying to write that in through the spreadsheet. It'll still load your family. It just gives this error just to let you know that everything's not synced up and there's something that you should look at. But it still comes in. You can see I have my on encasement and picture windows, and these are all of the types that were created through the spreadsheet. You just place those in your project the way you would any other family, and you can still select it and go through and switch between all of the types that you have loaded. So that's a basic overview to how we're doing parametric families and why we're using family types. I think it'll be a lot easier to maintain these things as we move forward. If you have to modify a model once rather than modifying 20 separate models, I think it'll save us a lot of time. And if you want to add another window, all you have to do is add a row to the spreadsheet. So this is the type catalogs is a feature that we're using in a lot of our Revit families, so you guys should become familiar with those features.